In 2025, I read over 18 books, wrote 100 pages of content, and published 6 hours of high quality content. I also spent over 65 hours in total silence through 219 meditation sessions. But more importantly, I quit nicotine, I quit weed, and I walked away from a life insurance sales career to go all in into this YouTube channel. But I also wasted a lot of time making lots of mistakes that cost me months of progress. I spent the last 365 days in the trenches of trial and error, and out of all that noise, I learned 5 specific lessons that completely rewired my brain and changed who I am. If I knew these on January 1st, I would have reached my goals a lot quicker. These are the 5 lessons I learned in 2025. Number one, consistency definitely compounds. Consistency definitely beats intensity. And I learned this the hard way. So I've been working out since I was a junior in high school. So about 3 years ago, I started working 3 years ago. In my gym, there is this one guy, the same age as me. He was always consistent because I would work out for 3 months and then stop for a month. And he would always be working out. He would never stop, but he would be consistent because every single time I would come back, he would be there. What I saw in him was that his muscle growth increased a lot more than mine. So I thought to myself, if I had just been consistent, if I had just been consistent and kept going instead of finding these excuses as to why I cannot go, I would have increased my physique a lot more. And here's the thing, like you can kind of tell like fitness is a big reflection on life as well and your career. But the important lesson that I learned is that consistency compounds and quitting anything resets the counter to zero. And the best way to actually imagine what this actually means is let's say that you have a tree. You plant the tree and you start watering it. For 3 months, you don't see any results. You don't see any growth. It's just a seed in the ground. But if you keep watering it, eventually it's going to grow. So just because you don't see the growth doesn't mean it's not growing. If you were to quit watering the plant, then the plant would die. There would be no growth. So in order to grow, you have to put time and energy into something. You have to do that consistently. And the only way to stop that process is by quitting. Once you quit, the growth process stops. And success is basically growth. So if you want to achieve anything, you have to be consistent in the actions that you do. It was either Warren Buffett or Charlie Munger who said this. He said, compounding is the eighth wonder of the world. Let's say you have 1 penny and you double it every day for the next 30 days. Goes to 1 cent, goes to 2 cents, then 4 cents. And then you do that every day of the month. You're going to have a lot more money than you think. You're going to have $10 million just by doubling 1 penny every day for 30 days consistently. So that's the first lesson I learned this year. Consistency compounds. Number two, observe but do not obey. This has to do with emotional control. And emotional control is a very important thing that I've been practicing for the last 3 years as well. And this is one of the things that you really have to get good at because emotional control is very important, but it's also very hard. But the major turning point that I learned this year is that your job is not to suppress your emotions. It's to observe your emotions. If you ever have any intense emotions, you have to be able to take a step back and look at it from a different perspective. You have to be able to separate yourself from the emotion. Because once you can do that, you can realize that emotions and thoughts are information. They're not commands to live by. I really learned this through meditation. Meditation is really good at teaching you this principle. The more I realize this and the better I can get at this, the more I realize that the problem is not the actual situation that is causing me to have some sort of emotional reaction. The problem is the reaction to the situation. Because sometimes your reaction actually makes a problem worse. It makes problems feel worse. You have to separate yourself from this external world and be able to manage your internal world. You have to think before you act. Give yourself a little bit of a pause. Think intentionally about how you want to act in this situation and what's the most beneficial way to actually act. So the main skill here is to stay present, aware, and intentional, and observe your reactions more than you react to them. You have to view your mind as a pond. The more thoughts and the more emotions that are going on in your mind at one given point, the more ripples there are going to be in this pond, and the less of an accurate reflection you can see of reality. and the less clear you can think. 3. Thoughts are the foundation. What you think about consistently is going to basically shape your outcomes, and they're going to shape your circumstances because they're going to shape your actions. They're going to shape your words. And those actions and those words are going to shape your outcomes. If you don't govern your thoughts, nothing else matters. Because the most dominant thoughts that you currently have are eventually going to crystallize into something in the real world. If you have a very dominant thought of succeeding and if you just continue to fill your mind with a certain project or completing a certain project, eventually that's going to have to crystallize. But if you fill your mind and fill your thoughts with bad intentions or those thoughts, you're going to get karma for your thoughts somehow, one way or another. If you've ever heard the term as within, as without, and as below, as above, you have to very critically look at your thoughts and look at your reactions and how you view people, your beliefs, everything. You have to really go into your inner world and see your and observe your thoughts and your emotions. You have to really observe these things because they're gonna create your reality. Sometimes I catch myself judging people, but then I look at that and I'm like, is it a helpful thought? Do I have a helpful thought thinking about this way about a person? Because if you have any evil thoughts, they're not helpful. They're not going to make you succeed. But all good thoughts, all they can do is make you succeed. Every good thought, every good deed you do, it's going to make you succeed because they're going to shape your actions. They're going to shape your words. Try to stay away from bad thoughts. Just control your mind as much as possible. Your outer world is downstream from your inner world. Number 4, foundations first. This is basically about mastering skills and learning stuff. Because the more you learn, the more you earn. And the more educated you are, the more you will prosper. Foundations first for everything. If you want to learn anything, you have to master the foundations first. Rushing mastery of a certain subject or a skill skips the thing that actually creates mastery in the first place. And the big problem I have a lot of the times is that I think that I'm too good for the foundations. I think that I'm too smart for the foundations. And I learned this when I was doing life insurance. The point of that was to learn sales. And the way you would learn sales is to make cold calls as much as possible. And the more volume you do, the more you learn. The foundation of the skill was to memorize your script. Why did the script work in the first place? You have to master that. You have to master the foundation before you can move on to the intermediate and the expert stages. And I refused because I thought I was too good for the script and I thought I was too good for the beginner stages. Sometimes it hurts your ego. If I had just sat down and memorized the script by heart and did more reps, I would have prospered in life insurance sales. But I didn't. And I made this mistake so many times in my life. I made this mistake while trying to learn guitar, while trying to learn piano. I made this mistakes a lot. But the key here is that whenever you're learning something or trying to master any skill is to make sure that you master the foundations. And the longer you can stay as a beginner, the better you'll become. I see like a skill set is like this. You have a pyramid. The base of the pyramid is the most important part because without the base, you can't have the rest. And that supports everything else. So just make sure that you lock in on the basics every single time. Because a path for any kind of success has basics, has a starting point that you have to take. You have to take the full path. You can't skip stages in the path because you have to realize that you're not special. You have to learn like everyone else. And the less seriously you take yourself and the less smart you think you are, the more you actually learn. That's why people who you think are smart have such big egos because they take themselves so seriously to the point where they think that they have to skip the foundations and the basics of whatever they're trying to learn. Number 5, be empty and be detached. This kind of comes from the Tao Te Ching. It's a Chinese book about wisdom. But I've been learning this as I meditated the last entire year. Emptiness is power. The reason why emptiness is power, because to be empty is to be full. I realized that the way to meditate, the whole point is to be empty. What does it mean to be empty? To be empty is to rid yourself of all negative thoughts, of all desires, of all selfish needs, to be detached from any results in this world, to be detached of people's opinions, to be detached of your current financial situation, and to be detached from anything in this external world. And it's pretty easy for me to say that, I know. But if you can empty yourself, the more empty you become, the more full you become, because something other than your ego fills you. Spirit fills you. You have to empty yourself of ego. You have to empty yourself of anger. You have to rid yourself of any concept that you need to fulfill your own desires. If you're doing anything trying to achieve something, you have to see it from a point of, I'm not trying to achieve it for myself, but I'm trying to achieve it for other people. The more you can empty yourself, the more full you will become. And it's hard because your ego does take over sometimes. And it's a constant practice of emptying yourself and letting go of your desires and letting go of a concept of yourself, because this can get pretty metaphysical. But if you ever want to reach any sort of enlightenment or anything like that, you have to empty yourself so that the spirit and the fruit of the spirit can come into your life. Because if you have a cup full of ego and desire and anger, good things cannot come into your life because your cup is already full. There are 6 books that really helped me, like, really realize these things and where I was making these mistakes and how I was making these mistakes. Number 1, Psycho-Cybernetics. Read this book. Make sure that you really read this book. This is one of the best books that you could ever read. Number 2, As a Man Thinketh. Number 3, The Prosperity Bible. If you want to read As a Man Thinketh, The Prosperity Bible has that book within it. And this book teaches you the mindset around abundance. It's about 1,000 pages, but has several different books of established authors like Napoleon Hill, James Allen, every prosperity author that you could think of. And this book has been so helpful in the last year. I bought it last year and it was so good. That's a really good book. And lastly, the Tao Te Ching. This book teaches you emptiness, detachment, and flow. But that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you found this valuable. And I hope you guys can actually learn something and skip the mistakes I made last year. But if you found this helpful, make sure you subscribe and comment what you want to see in the next video. But as far as that, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
I just keep stacking up top. Whole team that's law, new city, new car, new car, new car. They wanna see me break. I've been too clean, no mistake.